I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan. Here. Ms. Cooney. Here. Mr. Curtis. Here. Mr. Dorff.
Here.
Mr. Finley. Mr. Flynn. Mr. Hall. Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Humphrey. Mr. Sullivan.
Here.
Ms. Weber. Here. Ms. Agra. Here.
Thank you. Ms. Sadler, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Any changes anybody wants to make? Got a motion and a second? Jerry? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Public comment. I do have one public comment card. Matt Mansur. Yeah, up at the microphone up there would be great. Thank you.
Good morning. I wanted to speak to you guys today regarding the Reno air races. I was horrified last month when I saw in the news there that you guys had we're talking about giving the Reno air races $75,000 money in sponsorship for their event. I've put on events here before, and when approaching the Rscva, it's always asked that the event has insurance and also has a permit. This event has neither one, does not have insurance, does not have a permit. It's very unsure whether they're going to get insurance or a permit. The crash investigation hasn't been released yet, and there's certainly going to be a lot more lawsuits filed then. Rscva could be sued, the airport authority could be sued. All depends on what the crash report says. 10 people killed last year. That's ugly. 70 more injured. That's really ugly. When I talk to people around town about this, they go, yeah, but we should have the event because we need the money. Killing people for money is wrong. This is the most dangerous sporting event in the world. You cannot show me statistically another event that is more dangerous. And what does everyone say after there's a crash? They say, it could have been worse. I heard Mike Houghton say that right after the crash. It could have been worse. I heard Airport Authority's attorney last week say, yes, it could be worse, and if we do this again, we're going to have to raise our insurance levels to levels we don't even know yet. It's sickening that this community thinks that we need this money, there needs to bring this in so we can raise money. The potential out there for one of these planes traveling at over 500 miles an hour, which is twice as fast as any race car goes, and crashing right into the stands is a reality. I ask you guys to not support this event. Put that money towards getting a safer event like the balloon races or something where people aren't at risk to be ran into with an airplane traveling 500 miles an hour. People can enjoy antique planes on the ground. They don't have to have them whizzing by their heads at 500 miles an hour. I think until this event is insured and has a permit, I think consideration of sponsoring them and also the crash report, and you guys need to wait till the crash report is released, I think that considering sponsorship for them should be removed. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, they do have to have their permit and their insurance, and they have to be moving forward with the show before they get the sponsorship dollars. So, but they don't get the money in the event that they don't put the show on. Moving on. Review and approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Got a motion and a second? Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Baum, President's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, everybody. Got some exciting news to report on some things that have happened since we last met. Just returned with Mr. Leinen and the sales team from a very, very productive and professional week in Washington, D.C. As you know, Washington, D.C. is the key market for the convention and meetings industry, and our team put together a sales mission last week that you would have all been very proud of. I'm a pretty tough judge of salespeople, and I give us an A for this effort. It was very well done. We had evening events at Lucky Strike, a popular upscale bowling alley, which was well attended. We sponsored the Association Meeting Professionals monthly meeting for meeting planners, and we also had an event at a facility called Culinary, which is run by an executive chef who invites groups in, gives them a challenge of duplicating a recipe or series of recipes for a complete meal, and then has a competition amongst them as to who can execute the best. For meeting planner and decision maker customers who enjoy cooking, this was a grand slam, and they had a terrific time. It was well attended, and people really left feeling a close bond with Reno Tahoe, USA. We also made sales calls and presentations throughout Washington, D.C. and Virginia. We had a luncheon out in Reston, Virginia. And just to give you one example of how the things all come together, because Mr. Leinen and myself are very hands-on in the sales process, when we went to PCMA in San Diego, my second week on the job, Mr. Leinen had set up a luncheon for us with the gentleman who's the CFO of the National Rifle Association. This organization met here back in the 90s and hasn't been back since, but Wayne LaPierre, their executive vice president and a very public figure, had said when he was out at the Safari Club show last year, Reno would be a perfect place for them to return to with NRA. And we didn't forget about that. So we sat down and had lunch and a long conversation with their number 2 guy. Then when we went to Safari Clubs International in Las Vegas a few weeks later, we tracked down Mr. LaPierre and had a good conversation with him, reminding him of his comments and the fact that we were working with his staff to hopefully get NRA back here in Reno Tahoe. And then just last week when we were in Washington, D.C., once again, the CFO was invited to our luncheon, sat down. John was at the same table with him. I chatted with him extensively during the reception portion. And so there's a triple teaming in just a couple of weeks in 3 different cities around America with the top 2 people at NRA moving this forward to a strong possibility of them coming back here. I believe in 2017 would be their first open year. So that's how it's done. I'm sure a lot of you know that, but it is a long process, but made faster when senior executives get involved and show our commitment to these organizations. So that kind of thing is happening on a number of fronts. It'll continue to happen. It means some extra time and effort by Mr. Leinen and myself, but there's nothing more important on our agendas than helping our sales team book these big conventions and increase these relationships with meeting planners and decision makers. So very, very positive 5 days in Washington, D.C., and we look forward to future events like this in places like Chicago and Washington, D.C. again, perhaps later this year. Very helpful in our efforts to become a bigger, higher visibility player. Also, while we were in D.C., we met with the leadership of ASAE. As you recall, you approved a strategic sponsorship of that organization, and we didn't just sign the contract and sit back and let them do the rest. We're making sure that we squeeze every last ounce of opportunity out of this new partnership. So we had lunch with a couple of their vice presidents who are our primary contacts, met with their president and CEO, John Graham, and they put out a press release announcing the sponsorship, and we took some additional photographs to use in the trade media. But most importantly, we reminded ASAE that one of the things we wanted was to really own some real estate with that organization moving forward. And one of the things that Mr. Leinen and myself have determined would be the best way to do this is to tap into their, what they call young leadership or young professionals. Fortunately for us, ASAE was just in the process of doing research with their younger membership to find out what would be a meaningful way for the organization to interact with them. We all know that Gen X and Gen Y thinks and looks at the world differently than boomers and other age groups, and it's important for trade associations to make sure they're communicating and interacting with the younger members moving forward, or they're going to lose them and their basic momentum as organizations. So we said we would like to have an annual event here in Reno for the young professional membership of ASAE. Our thought here is that our outdoors orientation, our activity orientation is a perfect fit for the younger people who are 5 or 10 years into their career. And also, once you get them here every year and build a relationship with them, we've got them for 20 or 30 years of their career as loyal friends of Reno Tahoe. So we are working with ASAE to moving forward. Our hope is that perhaps as early as next year, we might be able to have the first Young Professionals Conference for ASAE, brought to you by Reno Tahoe, USA. So we'll give you updates on that, but that would be a real success for us, and on top of all the additional elements of that sponsorship that we've related previously. We also have been scrambling efficiently, but with great vigor, to get a new advertising campaign up and running. When I came on board January 2nd, we already had a start date of February for a new leisure campaign for consumers in Northern California. I didn't feel the creative direction was what we needed. We all know that I did kill the Far From Expected as well. So we really started with a clean sheet of paper. Fortunately, I'd done a lot of thinking before I got here and had a direction that I feel has a lot of merit for the destination. We hired Stan Byers at Stan Can Design to be our creative partner, and we've been moving very quickly on radio, magazine, and billboard advertising for a new campaign that will break as early as next week with the first materials due and some of the billboards going up in the Bay Area. I don't have a lot to show you, but I did want to give you a taste of at least a couple of the billboards and set it up by telling you what the concept is. We all know that gaming is not the main draw anymore. There's too much gaming in America. We know people will game when they come here, but that can't be the sole reason we try to lure people to Reno Tahoe. We need to have more than that. We need to have things that are unique to this destination. The new campaign is What's Your Passion? When I got here, I was told I was very passionate when I talked about all the opportunities I saw here. I've heard the word passion used over and over again by the people who live in Reno Tahoe. And I know that in today's world, when people get busy and life sort of catches up with you, so often the things that we really care about and enjoy doing most of all go to the back burner and don't get acted upon for many years. So we want to reinvigorate people's desire to enjoy their passions, and we want to remind them of the incredible variety of passions that can be enjoyed here in Reno Tahoe. The fact of the matter is, with very few exceptions, what we offer is available on an individual basis elsewhere. What is unique about this destination is the ability to do so many different things in one destination. And from my considerable experience in tourism around this country, I can tell you, I can't think of another destination that can offer such a varied palette of things to take advantage of in such a beautiful setting as what we have to offer here. So another element of this is we're asking our participating hotel partners to come up with what we call passion packages. And this is an a la carte approach where if the lady or the one member of the couple or the group wants to go to the spa all day and somebody else wants to play golf, well, then you can design your own custom package that allows you to price that out and build that in with the hotel of your choice. We believe that this whole passion idea has a lot of legs to it. Yesterday I was talking to folks from economic development here, and they believe that they can tie this into their message as they attract businesses here, considering relocating factories or facilities and hiring people locally. There's a lot of passion involved on a local scene. There's a lot of passion that we can evoke in people who are trying to decide where they want to go for their next getaway vacation. And we believe that through all the iterations of this, it'll grow considerable momentum. We're also going to take this campaign and we're going to post it around town. So on the real estate that our operation has in our portfolio, you'll see large banners or billboards on the side of buildings or inside our buildings with the same "What's Your Passion" challenge. And we think it's important that people who come here for a convention from Chicago see this message as well, because convention attendees are consumers as well, and we hope that the experience they have here attending the XYZ convention leads them to go home and say to their spouse, hey, you know, I was really impressed with Reno Tahoe, we should check it out for our next vacation. So although the media dollars are being spent in Northern California, this is a campaign that will impact people coming here, and then on the internet will, of course, impact folks around the world. The dollars involved are the same dollars that were involved with the previous campaign. So we have put some additional dollars in to add print element to it, but the billboard and the radio spot count is the same as it was initially. I did add the magazine component because I felt that it was important to have 3 different platforms where people would be presented this concept. And because we have hotel partners in this co-op campaign, the billboards are pure message. When you're driving 65 miles an hour, there are only a couple of words you can absorb. And we want people to see this simple image and be asked the question, what's your passion? And then go to the website to dig down deeper. Then our partner hotels on the website will have a lot of real estate where they can offer their packages and talk about what makes their facility unique. The radio spots we're doing are 60 seconds long. There's a 20-second donut in that spot that is customized for the hotel partner. And then in the magazines, we have a full-page ad that's similar to the billboards, but on the facing page there's a 1/3 column, and that is just about the individual hotel partner in that issue. So Ms. Cooney's property is in there. There'll be a column for the Nugget, and it'll have a picture of the property, their logo, and have whatever offer they want to make. So there's a retail component in the magazine that goes along with a full-page ad that's challenging people to think about their passions and how Reno Tahoe can meet them. We'll also have some special sections in magazines where there'll be large real estate for the properties. But in addition to getting to tell their story, the properties are coming in as our partners are buying into the fact that we need to do something different. We need to take a new direction and make people think differently about Reno Tahoe. And we've got 8 different passions that rotate through these billboards and magazine ads. And frankly, there's only one of them that relates to gaming, because that can't be the main pitch anymore. So it is part of who we are, but a lot of people know that's part of who we are, and we have to make them think differently about this destination. So we're excited about this campaign. You'll be hearing more about it, and we'll share more with you down the road. But because we're almost ready with these billboards to go, I just wanted to give you a taste of it and let you know that What's Your Passion is not our new slogan. That's our new campaign. And if it gains great traction moving forward, it could eventually migrate to a slogan for the destination. But I like the flexibility of having headlines and taglines that come and go as appropriate. And then if one really is well received and people run with it, then we can look at it being a more formal part of our ongoing marketing positioning. So that is my report, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Moving on, presentation. Jennifer.
I'd like to introduce Ruth Bernstein from EMC Research, and we've completed the 2011 visitor survey, profile survey that we were doing this prior year, and Ruth will be presenting it to everyone here.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ruth Bernstein. I'm a principal with EMC Research. My colleague Roger Chang is over here in the corner, so he may answer questions as we go through this. So I'm going to take you through, as Jennifer said, we just completed the visitor profile survey. It was an annual survey, all of 2011, and what we were tasked with was collecting a representative sample of anyone who visited this area during the year. So and defined by the area, it was actually Washoe County, although when we interview people, we don't tell them, we name the cities and actually show them a map. We were looking to kind of track and establish quantitative measures about their travel behaviors. How did people come here? What did they spend? What did they do when they were here? And what are the demographics of those groups? And then what we've started to do is also take this data and start to segment into groups and really understand who are the people who are coming here all the time, who are new visitors, who are occasional visitors. What can we learn about those groups to help to try to attract new visitors? Take you through the methodology, and then also I'm going to kind of, what we're going to do today is just show you some kind of key highlights from the research and give you kind of a taste of what we can do with this data, the goal really being that we can use this data in many different ways over the year. So obviously there's a lot of information, and we can always present that in other ways to any of you. So what we did is we have an internet panel partner that we used for this, and so it's an internet panel survey. We had a total of 2,797 completed surveys during the year. So we have a pretty robust data set. And what we do is every month, at the beginning of the month, and this was started at the beginning of the year in February of 2011, we do an internet panel survey. We ask about 4,700 people nationally, did you visit this area in January? And in March, we asked, did you visit this area in February? And they actually see a map of the area. So we say, Reno, Tahoe, Sparks, Reno, Sparks, Incline Village, and we show them a map. Did you visit this area, yes or no? If they did, then they go on and they complete the whole survey. So 2,797 people answered yes, they visited the area, and they completed the survey at one point. And so we do this every month. At the beginning of the month, we ask about the previous month. It is It is a national web survey, and then they're screened for whether or not they visited here. The overall margin of error is plus or minus 2 percentage points. We do some weighting of the data to make sure it's geographically mixed, but the screening population that we about 5,000 people who take the survey every month are representative nationally of the national population. And we'll also show you some comparison of the previous occasionally on some of the some previous visitor studies. So what we found, some really great news, is that overall visitors come here, they really like it. They're very satisfied with their visit. Most people plan to come again, and that's great news. Once you get them here, people like it and they want to come back. Very diverse visitor base. They're coming from all over the country. Of course, California continues to make up the core population of visitors, a lot of Californians coming here. But we're seeing visitors coming, from the Midwest, the South, the Northeast, everywhere. And what we were a little surprised by is we're also seeing quite a number of visitors from Southern California, more than I think we were expecting. And Southern California is a lot of people. So although proportionally of California, we're not getting as many Californians as there are, Southern Californians as there are proportionally in the state, but every 2% more you get from LA is a lot of people. We're also seeing a lot of diversity in your visitor base, which is great because as we start heading into the bigger, a robust economy, we have a great base to grow from. A lot of younger visitors, those with kids who are even coming, Asian, Latino, a very diverse visitor base. We're also seeing from the data, and then I'll show you some of the data as well, that the investment that you're making in events and other activities is starting to really pay off. We're seeing people, we actually ask in the survey, we give them a whole list of activities, ask them to check off what they did. We also include every month, we include events that were happening that month. So for instance, the rib cook-off is listed in the month that it happens. And we're seeing people do those events, especially the ACES games, the rib cook-off, seeing a show, shopping, a lot of shopping. And so there's obviously, of course, many people are gambling, as we'll show you, but they're also doing a lot of other activities. And we see a real opportunity here that shopping is, we all know visitors shop when they, that's what people do when they're traveling. But we're also seeing that group is they're spending money in a variety of places. They're gaming, they're spending money on lodging, they're dining, all of those things, and also attending events. So we think there's a real opportunity there to kind of expand that group. So I'll take you through the data, and then we can, of course, answer any questions. Just a few highlights here, asking before they came to visit, had they seen or heard anything about Reno, Tahoe area. 37% had seen something on radio or billboards. 66% heard something in word of mouth, friends or family, which is great. That's the kind of campaign that helps to get people to come. Magazines, website, Reno, Tahoe, US, the .com, they've been visited. Looking at how people got here, and what on the left, the comparison is to the 2007 visitor data, just to show you kind of how similar this data is. 41% in our survey over the year said they traveled here by air, 54% by car, almost identical to the 2007 data. And then length of stay, you can see there, 12% were overnight, 20% were day trippers, and on the bottom, the average length of stay, depending on, so overnight visitors only 3.5 nights on average. We divided all of the survey respondents up into categories based on where they stayed. You can see here we grouped them together. So 38% said that they stayed in a gaming property. Another 29% stayed in another commercial property that was a non-gaming property. So 2/3 stay in a commercial property. Some stay with friends and family, and then 20% are day visitors. So the total of overnight visitors. So when we look at, one of the things we've been doing in the data is looking at the differences between those that stay in gaming properties, those that stay somewhere else, those that are day trippers. And we wanted to show you this because it's an example of the kinds of analysis we can do with the data moving forward if there's some subgroup that you want to look at. Activities during their trip. So we asked, as I said, we give a long list of activities, but we group them kind of together. What did you do in your trip? 92%, 89% overall. This actually shows you each quarter so you can see how it changes or it doesn't change. 89% overall said they were here to vacation, or some kind of vacationing activity. 55% overall said they participated in gaming at some point during their trip. About a third were here to visit friends and family. 53% recreation. Recreation included a lot of different things, and I have some breakdown of that I can show you. 68% did some kind of events or shows or shopping. 13% were here for business, 12% convention. Then all the detail here, there's a lot of numbers, but you have the printout as well. This is looking at the overall, did you participate in any of these activities? And they could say yes to anything they did, so it doesn't add up to 100%. And then you can look at the different quarters. So resting and relaxing is big. Gambling, of course, shopping, visiting friends and families, hiking, all of these, number of people participating. You can see some of the things that stand out by quarter. For instance, Q1, 20% said that they participated in winter sports, skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing. But then in Q3 in the summer, 23% participated in outdoors, rafting, swimming, kayaking. So you can start to see some of the difference of things that people were doing. Other activities, just visiting Reno overall, visiting Lake Tahoe, 41% said they visited the Lake Tahoe. A specific event or convention, 18% overall. 23% a specific show. The museums, fewer people saying attending, but now we actually have the percentage that did each of these things. Then some of these specific activities that were only listed during the months that they happened, we see the number of respondents, the total respondents, so 97 of respondents out of the total, or 5% of the total, said that they went to a ACES game. And then one of the reasons we think that the ACES comes up most is because there are so many games. It's not a one-day activity, but a lot of people do attend. Illuminaire, fireworks, Hot August Nights, the USVC Open. So you can start to see how you can actually, we can see who attended, how many people actually attended these events, and then also we can look at who they are. Spending by quarter, how much did you spend per person per day for each of the categories below? And then we calculated like the total room. So lodging, 114 average a night, gaming, 219 a night, food and drink, entertainment, you can see all these. Shopping, interesting on shopping, very high, $117 average spend per day. The fourth quarter, you can see that jumped up to 183 per day. That shows that people are coming here and doing essentially their Christmas shopping. And that's a potential opportunity to maybe do, so the passion, maybe your passion is coming for shopping at Christmas time to do some package activity, with rooms, maybe shuttles, something like that. If people are really coming to shop, we see that as an opportunity. Intent to return, and their experience, so asking on a scale from 1 to 5, how would you rate your overall experience with your most recent trip to Reno? On the right is the excellent, and then the light green is a 4 or good. You can see very, very positive and almost nothing on the left side, that brown, the people that rate as 1 or a 2 on the poor scale. It's so small we can't even put the numbers, they don't fit. So it's great to see that over a quarter were really very, very positive about their trip, and almost everyone is generally positive. And then we asked, how likely are you to return? The definitely going to return is on the left. 47% overall say they'll definitely return. Another 25% very likely to return. Another 21% possibly. A very small percentage, under 10%, unlikely or don't know. We then, one of the things we've been working on now that we have the whole year's worth of data is how do we kind of analyze some of these different segments. So we created these different, 8 different profile groups based on their primary purpose for coming and also how they spent their money while they were here. So 24% of all visitors, based on what they said was their primary reason, and then also looking at how much money they spend, we put them into the gaming category. That's why they were here. That's primarily where they spent their money. 17% were vacationers in general. 17% really their primary reason we think was to visit friends or family. And then you can go around the smaller segments. What that's allowed us to do is start to look at those different segments and look at their, for instance, their satisfaction or their likelihood of coming back. So, for instance, those who were here for gaming that we put into that gaming segment, 58% said they're definitely planning to come back. Another 20% very likely to come back. Also, those who are here for business, very likely to come back, and all down the road, friends or family, shoppers, very happy. The sightseeing group is the one group where we see 16% who say they're unlikely or don't know if they're going to come back. That's a small percentage. A lot of those are probably folks who are driving across the country or making their one big visit. But otherwise, we see across the board very high likelihood of returning. And then also we've been able, now since we have categories, being able to look at where they spend money. So no surprise that those who were here for gaming, they have the highest gaming spend. That's partially by definition because we use their spend to figure out which category they're in. Spending $566 average per day. Also spending in other categories, shopping and other entertainment. What we see here is those that were here for entertainment and live sports. You see a big distribution spending in all categories. So those who are here really for events are gaming, they're shopping, they're eating, they're doing everything. And especially those shoppers down there at the bottom, also we see at the shoppers a real broad spectrum of where they're spending their money. So maybe coming for one reason, but doing a lot of different things when they're here. One of the things we also did is created kind of this segmentation of the visitors. So we have about 27% that we consider here your core visitors, definitely going to return. Another 27% are that kind of target. Maybe they're newer or their first time. How can we, who are they? What are they doing? You can start to see some of this data, how it breaks out. They're not very different, the core and the target. The core visitors more likely to be gambling. The target visitors a little bit more likely to be here for events and doing other things like shopping. The target visitors, some of the things they did, they like to do, resting, relaxing, gambling. They visited, they shopped, they visited the lake, and they also went to baseball game, a Luminaire, the Bighorn basketball, casino Halloween party. You can see they're doing kind of a lot of fun type events and activities. A little bit on the demographics of the overall, this is all 2,700 people that we interviewed, a little bit more likely to be male, very diverse by age group, with average age about 44. Diverse income-wise, with 41% falling in that 50 to 100,000 household income. Also, quite a bit of diversity ethnically, 72% white, but and 15% Asian. I think a growing population that we've seen compared to your previous data. That's a growing population of visitors. And then also geographically, as we said, a lot of diversity here. Visitors by home state. Californians make up the largest bulk of visitors at 39%, but quite a few from all over the state as well. Texas, Florida, 4% from here within the state. New York, Illinois, Arizona, kind of coming from everywhere. Looking at California, so of the California visitors, about 37% were from the Bay Area, 27% from the Los Angeles area. Los Angeles really makes up about 45% of the population of the state. So, we're still not getting representative. We could still increase, obviously, from LA. Sacramento, always been a very big core visitor, and quite a few from the Central Valley. And San Diego, 5%. So that's kind of our overview of the data, and we're certainly available to answer questions.
Thank you. Questions? Glenn?
There's a national database of what was the number, 4,700 people?
Well, we start from the national database is millions of people.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then we do 4,700 a month. Ask about 4,700 a month.
And then how do you get them? Is it they just you ask them if they want to take a survey on the Reno Tahoe area?
No. So this is a survey. They're participants in survey research, so they have actually signed up to be in a survey research panel, and so they are getting surveys, fairly frequently, although not burning out. And they don't know what the survey is about. So they just occasionally, the people on the panel get surveys, and it might be one day about some food, and this time they get one about this. We purposely don't repeat, and they can't get this survey too many times. And at the beginning of the survey, we ask them two questions. We ask, have you been to the Reno area, and we show them a map, and we also ask, have you been to the Washington, D.C. area? And we purposely do that so that they don't know it's only about Reno. So they get asked about both questions, and they only go on if they say yes to the Reno area. And we see we didn't show it here, but we track the fluctuation of the percentage of people that say yes, and it really does follow your busy seasons. So in the summer, when you have a lot of visitors, we saw the percentage of people who said yes go up, and during your slower months, you can see the percentage goes down. So it's interesting that it actually does sort of track, and we tracked it against room nights at one point, and it actually tracked kind of along.
Is there any possibility of getting a list of the 665 gamblers that average $566 per day?
Other questions? Beth?
I just wanted to thank Ruth. I know we've been through a kind of a struggle on this methodology change, but I believe what we came up with was really strong. And there's some really good stories here to tell. It's neat to see that we are, in fact, diversifying our visitor base. It's something we've been working on for a long time, and it does seem to be shifting in that direction. Little younger visitor doing more different things, as Mr. Baum alluded to. So it's kind of some exciting stuff. So thank you for all your effort.
Paul?
Thank you. I thought this was really interesting and a good presentation. Couple thoughts pop into my mind, and perhaps for you and perhaps for just general consideration. Were there any surprises that showed up that were revealing in your mind or really in anybody's mind? That's number one. And
well, as I said, I think one of my surprises was the large percentage of, the geographic diversity of the visitor base, that they're coming really from everywhere, and how large a percentage of visitors we're getting from Southern California. We always sort of think of the drive market as being the base, and so I was surprised, especially San Diego area, Los Angeles really shows that although an extremely difficult market to tap into given the cost of media in LA, that there's a lot of potential to get people from LA to come up here, that they're not all just going to Las Vegas, that our area has a lot to offer. And I think the other surprise is the number of activities that everyone's doing, that people really are coming here and doing a lot of things.
as a follow-up thought to that, and your presentation sort of answered it as we went along, and one example was you spoke of the possibility of Christmas shopping as somebody's passion, perhaps, and how that could be taken advantage of. And my thought is, what do we do with this information, and how do we take advantage of it? And I guess that's going to be for Jennifer and Chris and everybody else to answer as we move forward. But what immediately comes to my mind is this is great information. I mean, this is really solid stuff. Now we need to do something about it, and I'll look forward to elaborating on that over time. But is there anything that pops up immediately that we should be aware of?
Well, I think the fact that the whole passion campaign was developed without the knowledge of this research, it's nice to see that this supports that diversity, supports the fact that people do have things that they care about that they do when they're on vacation, other than the base things that we presume that they're all doing when they come here. And I think it bodes well for the direction we're taking with our initial campaign. But we will continue to pour through it and try to draw some additional insights from it. But I think the most exciting thing for our team was when the numbers came back, it showed that what we had come up with independently was in the right direction based upon what our current numbers prove. And I think also, too, the fact that this new methodology has met with great support in the community here, the fact that the older numbers still dovetail pretty nicely with it numerically. It shows that the old numbers, research is a snapshot in time. You could do the same thing the next day and get different numbers slightly because it's a moving target. But the fact that even with different methodologies, we got a similar directional kind of information, but that certain things have come on even stronger most recently, I think gives credence to the fact that this is, within the limitations of budget and capability, this is solid research that is reflective of who we're getting right now and tells us things that we can use to our advantage going forward. And if anyone would like copies of this, we can send it to you electronically.
And also, I'd like to mention, it was just 5 minutes ago posted to the website. So it's under Research and Reports under the Marketing tab. So it's available.
Bonnie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is it seems to me that your report stated that the average age of the visitors is about 44 years of age. I think that was one of the last.
That's correct, yes.
Is that due to the fact that that age group would be more likely to use the internet to do the surveys?
So we've spent a lot of time looking at that. So we actually have corrected for some of that in our weighting methodology. So it is true that the web panel does skew a little bit older. In the web panel, there's actually adequate representation from people age 65 and up, and we make sure that we have, in terms of the number of people that take the initial, what we call a screening question, did you visit? We have an adequate representation of people age 65 and up. The challenge is that over age 70, the panel drops off. So there are very, very few people proportionally compared to the census that are in the panel that are age 70, 75, and 80. So what we've done, one, we overcorrect, we do extra interviews in the age 65 and up, and then we weight the data basically to correct for the fact that they're underrepresented. So we do think that it still may skew a tiny bit, but because of and we've created a weighting structure that basically, as the web panel becomes more robust in the older ages, we won't have to correct so much. And we knew that one of the challenges is the other methodology to use would be intercept, which was used before, that it also has biases and problems, so it's not perfect as well. So we've tried to do as much as we can to correct for it.
Because I remember the baby boomers were the age range that we had been talking about in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems to me that the age has really dropped a lot from the baby boomers to the
We
40.
think some of that is definitely true. Some of that, when we looked at the activities of the types of people that we're doing, we think that some of it is we think some of your age has actually dropped. But the other thing that we looked very carefully at is, are there differences in the data from the older folks in our survey versus the younger in terms of what are they doing? Are we delivering you findings that are somehow skewed based on the data? And we don't believe so. We look very carefully, in terms of the older versus younger, there are not as many differences as you would expect in terms of their activities. Yes, younger people are maybe a little more likely to snowboard than older, but in terms of the overall findings on shopping, gambling, the diversity of activities, in the diversity of the population, we believe that that it isn't skewed results that we're delivering to you, even if it's slightly young, and that I think one of the things we've established is that this is a methodologically sound and cost-effective way to gather this data if you want to continue to do it in the future, and that web panels are they're adding thousands and thousands of people every day, and that web research is going to get more and more robust as you go forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to items for board consent. We didn't have a finance committee meeting because we didn't have a quorum, so Kevin's off the hook this month. So we'll go to the marketing committee report. Mr. Carano.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the marketing, sales and marketing committee did meet February 6th, which we did have a quorum. And I'll be asking for consent approval of items 8, D, E, and F. A large portion of our meeting was actually spent on the visitor profile that you just saw. So it was nice report, and I think there is some good stuff to go forward there. Items D, E, and F are speaking to the month of December, which I don't know how many months ago that was, but seems like a lifetime. But Chris Baum's first day with us, I think, was January 3rd, 2nd, yeah. So whole new game in town. And then December also marked Mr. Linen's, you've been here for about 15, 16 months now, I guess, someplace around there. So December actually started seeing an uptick in in our convention sales in regards to getting closer to meeting their monthly goals, which felt like the sales team may be starting to come of age. We still have a long ways to go. But the sales convention staff team hit 50% of their goal for the month of December, and with the facilities bookings that hit their month of 63% of their goal. I say this because come June 30, it's going to be really a challenge for the sales staff to come close to their 100% of their goal by June 30. So right now, year to date, the convention sales staff is up to 34%, which is an improvement over the previous months. And actually, if you take a look at last year, month to date, and you took Joe Kelly's booking of bowlers out of there of 190,000 room nights, the sales staff is up just a little bit over last year. That was item D. John, do you have anything you want to speak to in regards to convention sales?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Carano. I do. There's been some really great highlights that came out of December and January, because December is quite a long time ago. But one of the things, we had a lot of activity attendance in December, one of which was the U.S. Sports Congress. And the reason why I want to highlight that is this particular customer who runs this particular event was with us at our September FAM. And then we went and attended this event and came in at a pretty important sponsorship level. And now, as a result of some of our activities with Shelley's good sales activities, I think we're pretty close to finalizing U.S. Sports Congress as selecting Reno, Tahoe area as a definite for 2013. And the reason why I highlight that is the attendees who belong to U.S. Sports Congress represent a lot of your leading sporting events in the United States. Almost all of your governing bodies of the United States Olympics are members of this, such as taekwondo, volleyball, wrestling, etc. And we've got the verbal that this is going to be coming to Reno in 2013, which is real exciting news for us. And that piggybacks on all the other great exposure that we're enjoying this year. We have Helms-Briscoe that we just completed last month. That was a huge win, folks. I cannot tell you how proud I am of how everybody performed in the destination. The feedback from all of the Helms-Briscoe folks that are here is just off the charts about the welcome that they received, and their opinion of our facilities, et cetera, is really high. So that was a big win for us. We also just received word just a few weeks back, I'm not sure if I was able to mention this before, but U.S. Volleyball selected our area for 2013. This is June of 2013, almost 20,000 room nights, and we beat out some really tough competition in Columbus and Louisville. So this is a big win and another feather in Shelley's hat. She did a great job in pulling this together for us. So that was a big win. Safari Club, we're going to be hearing back in the next couple weeks on their evaluation of their event in Las Vegas. It was real exciting to be there and see how that city performs, and I have to tell you, it's a sexy destination for them. But one of the overriding comments that we kept hearing from everybody was how much they missed Reno and how much more they felt appreciated, and they really liked being here. It's all going to come down to dollars and cents, and that's what they're assessing right now, is what their overall expenses were versus the gains that they had with their attendance and increased exhibitor count. So stay tuned on that. But we had a nice presentation with them in January. And then I have one sad news to report. One of our sales managers just recently left us. Her last day was yesterday, Audrey Higashi. She has an opportunity to go join Norwegian Cruise Lines. So she'll be selling for that organization, working out of her home. And so we're actively looking to replace it. She managed our Great Plains states, kind of Colorado, Texas, Nebraska, that particular area. And we'll miss her, but we'll move on and go find an appropriate replacement for her. It's a good opportunity for her, so yeah, I'm excited that for her, but sad for us.
John. Any questions on convention sales? All right, moving on into item D, tourism, and don't really have much to report here in that for the last couple months, I think we've determined that the numbers that we're looking at aren't 100% numbers, and in the numbers that we were looking at in the previous years were not total true numbers. And so with that, John Linen and his staff are come up with a whole new way of developing a baseline for evaluating tourism and actually giving their tourism sales team good positive direction. They've got all the top hotels in the community on the internet. And is that supposed to start here pretty quick?
Yes, we're meeting with them tomorrow to review the beta site, and we'll see how that rolls out. And Mr. Rivers and I will be discussing that with them. We think that we'll be able to get this thing launched in March in terms of getting the data collection for the baseline reporting, and hopefully starting in April, this will be our standard operating procedures on reporting, give a truer picture, and go into our new fiscal year with a better profile of what goals we should have and how we should be attacking them.
So everybody understands is all the hotels will actually go in and put their information into a confidential website, and whether it be golf groups into a confidential website or bus groups or wholesalers, they go into their different categories, and this confidential website then passes on to John and compiles it and says, okay, here's what the tour and travel is really doing. And John, I believe, is going back 2 years to get in the hotel, participate in hotels, to participate, going back 2 years to actually have a good solid baseline. So it'll be interesting to see how those numbers do come up, and then give us good direction on for their sales staff on where to go get some more business. Any questions on tourism? You did have month of December. You participated in the National Tourism Association Convention in Las Vegas and the Rscva Annual Conference.
Yes, we did, and we've got a tremendous amount of activity going on the tourism side. A number of ski shows, golf shows that we're participating in. One initiative that I'm really proud of and excited to see what happens, and we just completed this, so I don't have a lot of breakdown to report, but one of the things that I've been challenged by is our participation in a lot of the public shows and its consumer shows, and is this the right way to do things? And one thing that we're trying differently now is working with the PGA and some of their regional membership campaigns. So we just did an e-blast 2 weeks ago to the Northwest Pacific Golf Association to promote our destination, gain insight about their members, and what their involvement is with golf, and do they have golf clubs or golf groups that travel, and et cetera. And we blasted this out to about 53,000 memberships up there. In addition, we also blasted it to about 15,000 of our membership, and we received response back from about 1,700 golfers who wanted information about our packages, and also identified whether they have golf groups that travel. We're just compiling that. We'll use this as a direct sale activity. We felt that this was a great success, and there's a number of other, we can go down to Southern California and over to Arizona and use this model, I think, for more data collection, more information about our direct sale activities, and perhaps also start organizing golf fam trips for golf clubs or clubs that, they travel, et cetera. So some really good stuff, I think. I'm excited about that. And Jamie's following up on NTA and other ways that we can better reach the tour group operators. So good stuff's happening.
Good. Okay, any questions on tourism? Any input, opportunities? Next, item F was the marketing, and a lot of the marketing, again, was visitor profile. For the month of December, visits to the website are not of goal, but they are up over last year. Year date, we're up over last year. Then we have our email signups are, not so much. And And then our Facebook activities in a positive direction in regards to interaction, both for the month and for the year. And then the marketing team has taken on a whole new social network called Pinterest. Does anybody Pinterest yet? Did I Pinterest your, or are you just interested in Linterest? You know, the New York Knicks starting guard. So Pinterest, Linterest. But at any rate, Pinterest is a social network that broke into the top 10 social networks this past December, and it's all about gathering people's interests and put them together to flock the herd, right? So if you want to explain any of this, that's the social network, and it's really tough for me to keep up on social network.
I can do a show and tell once we get it up and running.
So, and further development of our website's doing well. We continue to upgrade that, and then furthermore, for the month of November and December, we didn't have any billboard campaigns in Northern California, and so we're going to be hopefully starting that up in March, I guess it is. So with that, that's my report in the marketing side. Any questions? Any Pinterest there? You could Google Pinterest, Pinterest. Google it and find out more about Pinterest. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd entertain someone to make a motion for acceptance approval of items 8, D, E, and F.
So moved.
Got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And thank you very much.
Facilities, Bonnie.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Kelly is going to be giving this report.
I will. Thank you, Ms. Weber. We had our first Facilities Committee meeting back on the 15th of February. I say first Facilities Committee in quite some time, over a year. With the fact that we have a few construction projects coming on board at the Livestock Event Center, as well as some projects at downtown and within the bowling stadium and the event center. The thought was that we needed to activate the Facilities Committee, or reactivate, I should say, which we did in our first meeting. Gave us an opportunity that the first 4 items are the written submittals that we submit each month that we had been submitting through the Finance Committee. For the most part, it shows that your convention center, livestock event center, and bowling stadium, you have pretty similar months to a year ago. December of 11, we compare them to 11, 10, and then to December of 9. With the exception of Wild Creek Golf Course, where because of the obviously unseasonably warm weather we've been having, golf has been doing quite well as far as rounds, and so it was up. So for the most part in the facilities in December, there was nothing earth-shattering to discuss, but I think it gave us a real good opportunity to actually look at the reports a little bit more in detail. Gave the committee members the opportunity to look at the events more as far as what we have coming up, ask questions about what we have, what we are preparing and at the different facilities for the upcoming events, and then their possible attendance and a role that they could play as far as actually attending events and how they would go about that, where they could come back and actually ask their questions or their observations from events. I think for the most part, the facility reports, as I said, showed that it was more like last year, pretty common, wasn't anything earth-shattering, but it did give us that opportunity. So the committee members are a little bit more aware of what's going on at the facilities, not only in the prior month, but as we move forward. A little more detail into that look. And then we also, I'm happy to answer any questions about any of the facility reports. I didn't mean to just glaze right through that, but if you do have questions as far as the month of December. And it also, I'll add just one other little thing, it gave us the opportunity to prepare the committee members on what we'll see in January. In particular at our convention center, where last year in January, we actually had Safari Club, and we didn't this year, and how the numbers will skew year over year, and
and once again, a little more detail on what's actually going on in the facilities. Also, item L, we brought forward the client critiques, which we have been doing since the inception or the adoption of our prior strategic plan from 2007. All the facilities are still performing well based on the criteria that we currently have. Although there was discussion in the future of, and I think we've had the discussion at the Finance Committee too, of actually trying to get critiques, if you will, from our attendees, as opposed to just the show promoters. Where now the critiques are filled out by the show promoters or meeting planner, whatever it may be. The idea that we might look a little more aggressively at getting information from our attendees. Of course, to get that, you have to go through the promoter or meeting planner who has to allow you to interview their attendees. There's a little more cost involved, but we did have a pretty good discussion on the possibility of adding that at certain, adding that review at certain events. Yes, sir.
It seems to me it'd be in the promoter's interest to know how satisfied their clients are. And, after listening to EMC here, I mean, they do a really great job of sampling and taking surveys. Wonder if we could get somebody like that involved, on site when there's an event. Obviously, we'd need the permission of the promoter, but it seems like they have a good service to maybe offer in that area.
And there are other people, no disrespect to EMC, but there's probably more cost-efficient ways of doing that as well, especially if we were going to do it on multiple events. But there is a cost involved, and that was one of the things we did discuss in our researching how we could do that cost-effectively and which groups would allow you to, some meeting planners in particular do not want you approaching their patrons at all with questions, but others, like your public shows, will probably be a lot more receptive to that sort of to that sort of polling, if you will, of their attendees. But anyway, we did have those discussions and looking at critiquing our operations a little bit more from the patron side and how we can improve our performance there, and not just primarily from the promoter or meeting planner side. Those are our action items, which we will ask you to approve here in just one second. But also we have, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later, we went over the proposed RV recreational vehicle spot expansion out at the Livestock Event Center, which we'll ask for your approval later on within an action item. And we also brought forward a video presentation on the improvements to the National Bowling Stadium, just so our committee members would know what they see if you see a dumpster out in front of the National Bowling Stadium as you drive down Center Street today, because they're in the midst of construction on a Hall of Fame museum in partnership with the United States Bowling Congress and Bowling Proprietors Association of America, just so those aren't actually our facilities that we own, but we do manage them, and so if they had those questions, what exactly we were doing in this first phase and then what is being proposed by the city of Reno in the future phases. But those were just...
Can you tell us what that is? What the future...
Pardon?
What the future phases are that they're looking at doing, and what, besides the Hall of Fame?
Do you have the video presentation?
I do.
I think it'd be worth seeing.
Can you find it? I think it'll take you, maybe if you would like, we can look at it. I'm not, I will tell you, it was quite honestly, we are cautiously optimistic that we will be bringing back a United States Bowling Congress contract extension to you all in March. And it was our intention to show it at that time. But we did, sorry, we did bring it forward to the Facilities Committee. I don't know, it would just take a second to show you. It's really quite exciting. We're very happy with it. Actually, the Reno City Council, I guess, approved it like a couple of Wednesdays ago, or at least the phasing and at least the plan that's been developed. I think that's it right there. Just hit forward. Okay. Okay.
Joe, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Who was the architect on that
You need to
design?
back up, Charlotte.
Back up.
Yes, back up to the second slide. Thank you. With the city of, just take a, can I move it from here? The city of Reno hired Worth Group Architects, which is a Reno-based architectural firm. They also have offices, I believe, in Las Vegas and Denver, Colorado, but they're based out of Reno. They were actually worked on the event center project and actually worked with Peter Wilday on the original. At least we think a pretty talented group of people.
Do you know the cost for that design?
Well, right now,
Scenario
and Ms. Zadra or Mr. Dortch might know more. The original cost, I believe, was $100,000 or $90,000 to $100,000, which included not only the design of the Bowling Stadium Hall of Fame Museum, but it also included the preparation of this project schedule and some initial cost estimating. So it was kind of a twofold project. While they were designing the bowling stadium, they were also doing some planning for the city. Part of our goal with the United States Bowling Congress is they would like to see improvements each year. And the idea is there's a certain amount of funds that the $2 room tax will generate. So we were trying to kind of, what projects work well, what would we be able to do after 2012, 13, 14, 15. So they were trying to give us at least some guidelines there. So it was about $90,000 to $100,000, and they did actually perform 2 different services within that.
And I'll say, one of my ideas is, you know, I've been in development. I've never developed a property that size, but you know, one thing I do is I put it up for bid, and I would get the best design, and if the design firm wants the job, they need to produce the best design, and might be willing to find some design firms to do that as incentive to get the job. That's been my experience. Just a possibility.
Okay. If you'll look at, I'll try not to take too much of your time here, but the first phase that the city of Reno actually approved was the Hall of Fame Museum, which is under construction at this time. It's scheduled to be completed, and hopefully we'll all have a grand opening on April 13th, which is the day before the Women's Open starts in April 14th. Prior to the Open Championships at the Bowling Stadium in 2013, the area that is currently the Pinup Club, downstairs, Q and Cushion or Ruby's at one time, will be demoed and will be replaced with an 11-lane, 10 or 11-lane bowling, satellite bowling center. USBC, this is a big component of their future, where they can actually do satellite tournaments and training, warm-up, if you will, prior to the bowlers participating in the tournament. It'll be a really very exciting addition to the bowling stadium. And then up on the 4th floor, currently we have an older style rear view projector, which is more of a fossil than anything else. It's very expensive to maintain, and it doesn't actually give you a good clear picture, and especially with today's the technology that exists in video. We'll be replacing all those boards with an LED system, which not totally unlike what you see on the outside of the Atlantis or Peppermill or any of your hotels, or on the outside of the Reno Event Center. Give you a nice, clear, sharp picture all across the 78 lanes. Prior to the 2014, which of course would be the Open again, the squad room would be expanded once again with 78. You take 78 lanes, 5 people to a lane. It gets a little crowded in there. A lot of activities, the brackets, pictures, that sort of thing are taking place back there. This is not necessarily, this is where USBC's influence was, excuse me, but they participated more in what they would like to see. I don't know, the squad room, the expansion of the squad room is that paramount to our operation, but it's something that they were pretty adamant about, as well as the complete removal of the existing 78 lanes to be replaced with new 78 lanes. By then, we would have gone through, these lanes would have gone through 4 Open Championships and 3 Women's Championships, and will be in need of replacement. And then prior to 2015-16, some significant renovations to the 4th floor, where we will actually be removing the seating area, and creating a much more larger flex space. What am I going to do to move this forward? The first, will show you, this is where the Hall of Fame Museum is going to be, right here in the area that's currently where the old Pendleton store is, where we currently have offices. So what am I doing to move forward here? I'll do the next. Why don't you go to the next slide? This will give you, we'll just roll through, this will give you kind of an idea of what the museum will look like once it's completed. Just keep scrolling, Brian, it'll be good. Some of the items that will be on display the first year. One of the good things about the satellite museum is we'll be able to change the inventory. USBC and BPAA just have a phenomenal amount of inventory available that they can ship up from their headquarters in Arlington, Texas. You'll see, you can go ahead and roll through, Brian, a lot of the portraits of the ladies. This is a big thing that we'll start prior. Once again, we had the women's tournament in 2014. There's a bowling pin sculpture, which is one of the highlights of the artwork within the museum. Another picture of how the sculptor, the artwork works with the cases. And this just once again shows you kind of an idea of what the museum is designed to look like. And it should be a really clean, neat addition to the bowling stadium. As we discussed, it should be ready by the 13th. The next deal, phase 2, prior to 13, this is where the 10 or 11 lane bowling center will go, down on the first floor. Some of the ideas, I don't know that the architects and I are quite on the same page. A lot of this, if you've all have been where Chris and John just came back from Washington, D.C. and hosted a party in Lucky Strike, what you're seeing in the upper right and left is more of a Lucky Strike look. The exact look that we'll have down there hasn't necessarily been determined, but it will be a standalone center. And then the video wall that we discussed, that's the current backlit system. Both those will be replaced. And then the phase 2, it is all scheduled to begin or to be finished by February of 2013. Phase 3, once again, the two things, the squad room expansion, which is something that, unless you're actually a competitor, you never even participate in, and then the 78 lanes that are being replaced. In 2015, you'll see as far as the idea is to enclose the area that we currently call the South Tenant Improvement or the South TI, and it is currently it's open air, it was never completed. Quite a bit of an eyesore, anxious to get that and taken care of. And then now where you actually have where we actually have the seating area will all be blown out, and we'll be creating where it says exhibit area, 18,000 square feet, a large flexible space, if you will, where we'll have temporary seating during the Open and Women's Championships, but at other times we'll be able to do parties, exhibits, whatever we need to do there, as well as an expanded food service offering. That right now in the lower left-hand corner, you can see where we've got it's the idea is we would open the food and beverage. This hasn't been finalized. There's been discussion about moving it more back to the center of the house. But the whole idea is that this whole area will now become a wide open space and give us the opportunity to change the look. If we're going to ask the bowlers to come here as often as we are between now and 2030, there is going to be the need to keep the stadium fresh and with change and so that they feel like they're walking into a new place each year. That will just kind of give you an idea of what it looks like currently and some of the areas that'll change. And then as far as the exterior, if you will look, this will give you an idea of what has been proposed. You know how to make that stop. Okay. The idea behind the bowling stadium, I'm sorry I don't have the ability to pause at this time. We'll let it go around a couple of times. This is a 3D enhancement of what has been discussed. A large LED on the outside of the building. Well, there had been some discussion that the exterior would be renovated, to look more like the Reno Event Center and the Reno Ballroom, more of a campus approach. But now the actual thought is that we would take more of a freight house approach, that this would be the National Bowling Stadium close to the Reno Aces baseball stadium, and that the bowling stadium would be used as a conduit, if you will, to connect the Freight House District Baseball Stadium with the downtown Reno Hotel Core, and that would be more of your gateway from the downtown properties. That has not been, by any stretch of the imagination, is that exactly what the outside of the building is going to look like. But that was just one of the concepts that the Worth Group brought forward in preparation for, for a cost analysis for the city of Reno and for us, quite honestly, in our negotiations with USBC.
I'd like to clarify my previous statement. I'm referring to the outside elevation designs of the building. I love the rest of the building, and I think it's critical we get the input from the bowlers. We've got to give them what they want, but that's one design, and you got a great idea about the freight house look. That might tie that area in, but that's one design. It looks great, but if we can get more designs that aren't going to cost anything, I think that's something to look at.
Well, I'll thank you for it wasn't necessarily my idea. I'd seen that picture before. I don't want to take credit for that. I think it went back as far as the original design, back when Charles and Mark Lewis were with the city. There was a lot of discussion on using the bowling stadium as a conduit. But I think the key thing, it was the legislature's ability to give the city of Reno to impact the occupancy tax, which gave us the resources. And I say us, and I mean the Rscva, the city of Reno, and our downtown stakeholder properties, the resources to step forward and make this happen. So hopefully we will at the March meeting be bringing back to you all a contract extension with the United States Bowling Congress through 2030 that does a large component of that contract is the city of Reno's involvement in the renovation of the stadium. That was discussed also in the Facilities Committee. Brett, I apologize if I got off agenda item there, but that was all discussed. We do have action items G through L. Unless anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to discuss the facility updates, the client critiques. No, I'm sorry, and it was my intent to do. We'd have had it queued up a little bit better, but it's very exciting. And once again, this presentation was made to the Reno City Council. It is their project. There is a subcommittee that actually approves these phases and makes the recommendation to the council. And we did that, I think, a couple of Wednesdays ago. Just another step in the contracting of the bowlers.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank Mr. Kelly for giving the presentation because he did a much better job than I would have done. And I hope that we have this presentation again should you have, a positive thing to bring back. I think it would be a good idea because there's many of our members that are missing for this presentation. So I hope that happens in the future.
Any other questions,
That's
comments?
fine. We're happy to show it. So,
motion to approve items G through L.
Move to accept facilities report.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 9M. Brian.
Thank you, Chairman Dortch. For the month of December, we had a very good month, 13% over prior year, 8.6% over budget. Components of that, occupied rooms were up about 7,000 from budget, and we had an increase in average rate of $3.43, or 5.4%. Compared to the prior year, we were up about 12,000 in occupied rooms and $4 in rate. So all in all, a very favorable month. As you will see next month, January was quite the opposite of this. We'll be releasing statistics very soon, but we were about 25% below, largely due to safari, of course, and then the lack of snow for folks to come and ski, but very soft month for January, to say the least. I'm sure the hoteliers saw it in their results as well, but thankfully Safari will be coming back in 13, but not a good start for 2012. Oops. For the remainder of the revenues for the month of December, we had a $67,000 increase in facility revenues. All of the facilities actually performed above budget. which was a great start, or a great end to 2011 in that regard. We were over in expenses slightly to the tune of about $40,000. That was largely due to costs associated with the events that we did have at the event center at the end of November, being TSO and Sting, as well as the events we had in December. Year to date, from a room tax perspective, we actually are performing very well still. We are, through 6 months, we are up 1.4% or $155,000 to budget. 5.7% or $594,000 above prior year in collections to us. Components of that, cash occupied rooms are up about 9,000, rates also up just under $1. And then year over year, we're up about 57,000 cash occupied rooms, which is encouraging. Rate was also up, but all in all, through 6 months, things are going pretty well there on the room tax front. From the other operations, facilities were up about 265,000 or 7.9% through 6 months on the revenue side. Operating expenses are about $45,000 below budget. Non-operating expenses, again, we've discussed this, but the debt service is up because we prepaid some debt in prior months to save about $50,000 in interest, and it also reflects the refunding that we did, which it may seem a long time ago, but actually ended up closing in December. So it will reflect a little bit high for a couple months, but we will catch up, and all in all, the savings will be reflected by June 30. From a margin standpoint, facility is about $47,000 better than budget. Sales and marketing is $137 better. Some of that will be in placements that are going to occur in future months, and some travel that just hasn't hit based on the timeline we had. G&A, we're about $80,000 ahead, and room tax $155. But all said and done, through 6 months, we've picked up about $400,000 to the bottom line. With that, I would submit the report for December and 6 months ending December. Also included in the report are the facility summaries by month and year to date with the show summaries and the TAP report through December.
Any questions? Motion to approve item M?
Motion approved, Brian. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item N. Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as way of background on this item on the Pioneer Center, if you recall a few months back, we brought an item forward to this board with the motivation to relieve the Rscva of its obligation that it has on that property with the Pioneer Center Group. And this board authorized staff and council to move forward with the county to ask the county to essentially cancel the lease, 99-year lease that we have with the county on that property, and convey that property under NRS. They are allowed to convey that property to a nonprofit as long as it continues to be used for a charitable or civic purpose. Last week, the county considered the item and moved forward in a direction to have a public hearing next week to actually hear the item in a public hearing and to convey the property to the Pioneer Center Group, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. One of the issues that came up and why we're before you today was a concern raised by Commissioner Larkin, and I think it was echoed by Commissioner Weber. I won't speak for her. Maybe she can elaborate. One of the items was based upon the fact that the Rscva and county, it was viewed as kind of a 99-year partnership on the property. At least from Commissioner Larkin's standpoint, he didn't want to totally relieve the Rscva of that property, and this is only in the case of if the under statute, if the property is no longer used for the charitable or civic purpose, by statute it reverts to the county. And what he asked was that the Rscva, in the event, very unlikely event, because we all believe, and Brian could probably elaborate, that the PCPA group is very solvent, running that place very well the last 20 some odd years. But in the event that it no longer is used for that purpose, it does revert to the county in the statute by virtue of the statute. So what he was asking was, can the Rscva step back in with the county to find a new tenant? And what the county attorney has proposed, and it's in their resolution that they will consider next week. It's in item number 7 on page 4, that the RCVA and the county enter into some sort of joint agreement, that in the event the reverter, that they joint venture to find a new tenant, maintain the property until a new tenant's found, for the same purpose that it's being used today by the PCPA group. Brian and I discussed it. We have at least some concerns. We don't want to burden this board with some sort of perpetuity clause that you're on the hook for this forever. We'd like to see some limitations in the agreement, and I think that's the county attorney's amenable to negotiate this agreement. Maybe there's every 5 years it's looked at in case circumstances change and PCPA is running the thing very well, everyone's comfortable, that we can totally relieve the RCVA of any sort of burden on this. Again, we really think it's a very far-fetched possibility that the PCPA group folds shop anytime soon. It's being ran very well, and but we just kind of want your feedback if we can negotiate this agreement and get this behind us next week. Sorry for the short time frame, but because they're meeting on this next week, I wanted to put this on the agenda today. So I can answer any questions. Maybe Brian has some other thoughts.
I believe Mr. Scleri's hit on the key points. Again, I believe what Mr. Larkin is looking for is just some way for us to assist in the unlikely event that the PCPA were to not want to utilize that facility for its intended use at this point in time. So we're looking for direction from you all to try to expedite the transition of that facility to the PCPA group.
Beth?
Just a quick question. I haven't a chance to look through this. Does this absolve us of the obligation of what is $100,000 a year, basically cost?
Currently
that
it's
we've been
$60,000 a
doing?
year, and yes, it would.
And
As soon as the property is transferred.
So we would no longer have, as RCVA board, any financial obligation for this,
Correct.
unless, of course, it reverted back.
Correct. I mean,
Just wanted to confirm.
mechanically, this resolution would cancel that lease, and then we would, after that, cancel our agreement with the PCPA, and we wouldn't have that obligation anymore.
Jerry?
Also, is there a cost to the RSCVA to do this transaction and convey it back to the county or to the
I believe there would be a
manager?
small title transfer fee, but other than that, I don't believe there's any cost
Transfer
for us.
tax or?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't believe there's any transfer tax. I think that'd be borne by the county and the PCPA if there was any transactional cost. But the statute, this is really a conveyance that's done through a statute to allow them to give it to a nonprofit for a charitable or civic purpose. So I think all that is really just kind of an operation of the statute, and that's what they're following, the process they're following.
It just, my 2 cents, yeah, I mean, I don't think we should be tied down to a agreement for perpetuity if they, 10 years from now, didn't make it work. I mean, I don't think it should revert back to the organization who is kind of carrying it now, right? I mean, I think there should be a 2 or 3 year limit on their ability to enact that clause.
I don't think you're going to get a 2 or 3 year agreement. I mean, Bonnie can probably chime in on this better, but I don't think you're going to get it that short a time frame.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concern is what you're addressing as RSCVA members. As a county commissioner and it coming through the county, we can't be burdened with the same obligations. And so I'm looking out from the county's perspective that the county and the taxpayers can't take on this obligation either. So I appreciate, and I probably will abstain if I can from any vote. So, because we'll be having this the same discussion on Tuesday. So.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously we need to move forward and negotiate this. I mean, the way it's written is this is the first step, and then you'll go into negotiations with them to negotiate the provisions.
Yeah, the way you have is the county attorney drafted the resolution is prior to them actually conveying the property that we would enter into this joint agreement. Brian and I would like a little direction. It sounds like some limitations on years of this obligation and kind of the same concerns we had be built into that. We're just looking for some more direction. If the desire is to bring that joint agreement back, we could do that. We were trying to move this along as quickly as we could, just given that we've been dealing with this issue for quite some time now. So just looking for some feedback and direction on what this board pleasure might be.
So what you're suggesting is that if the RCVA were to be part of this, as if it reverted back, that would be the joint agreement that you would bring forward again? Is that what you're considering? Am I missing something?
Well, I think he's hoping to get some direction and not bring it back.
And not bring it back?
Yeah,
Okay.
my preference would be if you gave Chris the authority to negotiate that agreement under maybe some terms or limitations, and allow him to negotiate it with the county through Brian and I, and we could handle it that way, so we could get this behind us before in the next couple of weeks. Or
What kind
by
of terms and
Tuesday.
limitations would you suggest?
Well, I think one I thought about was that it not exceed what the term of the lease was, which would be 2063, the end of
63.
Yeah. Because I think that was kind of the basis of the concern was we're partners with you for 99 years, and we don't want to let you off the hook. And maybe every 5 years we take a look at the agreement to see if circumstances have changed. Maybe the reverter can go away. Maybe both parties, county and RCVA, could walk away because Pioneer Center is doing so well, and there's an avenue to do that. I'd hate for it just to hang out there and not be looked at every 3 to 5 years. So that would be kind of some of my thoughts moving forward. And we could obviously work with Chris and Chairman Dortch if this board's okay, and try to get it behind us.
That hook, that potential liability out there, if it was to revert back, is that capped? It's based on the previous years of $60,000. Is that capped at $60,000, or is there? I mean, could it be?
I haven't talked to Mr. Liparelli directly about it, but I don't believe there was any cap. I mean, I think in general terms, to Mr. Scolari's point, just looking to see that our board is okay with us coming back in at some level, since what the county has currently structured the transfer on is contingent upon us coming in at some point in time. And if you all are not comfortable with that, then we should go to the commission with that direction, I think is more what we're looking for at this point in time.
Jerry?
I think I understand why it's important for the RSCVA to walk away from it. It's not part of our core business, so I understand that. I understand where the county's coming from. In future years, should something happen with the PCA, they cannot maintain it, they go out of business. Something happens down there. If that building if the ownership did revert, then someone has to be responsible for repairing, demolishing, whatever. And because it's on the National Historic Property list, there's going to be some requirements to fix it rather than simply demolish it, I would think. And so I understand why they want this in here, but I guess I would ask if there's been any discussion about getting some sort of a report from these folks. If you do quit claims, I mean, it's like the property goes away, but if you're going to insist on having the reverter in there, then it would seem to me that you would want to have something from the PCA on a regular basis indicating what's happening to this property, what kind of maintenance are you doing? Because if they just get themselves in a situation like some local governments have been in, where they've had to defer maintenance on things because they simply don't have the money, then the ultimate liability obligation begins to build, and then the impact of that reversion becomes pretty serious. And so I'm just wondering if you've had those kinds of discussions during your negotiations.
We haven't had those kind of discussions. This joint agreement idea just literally came up like yesterday. But obviously that's good direction on something that we could build into the agreement. We could require the PCPA to report back to the county and or RSCVA on maybe that 3-year time frame that I've been talking about, and everybody reevaluates the situation on the property if there's deferred maintenance, and we can adjust at that time. That was that was right along the lines. Again, the reverter isn't being required by the county, it's required by statute. So if they're to convey it for a public purpose, a charitable purpose, by statute, it has to revert back to them if it's no longer being used for that charitable purpose. So the reverter we're stuck with. It's just a matter of who, at the end of the day, if the reverter is triggered. And again, financially speaking, the maintenance of the building, if the reverter were to be triggered, I'm not sure if that's the only concern. The main concern was RSCVA step back in, help us get another operator so we can continue as a going concern for the civic and charitable purpose, which is for the performing arts. So that was kind of the concept that the county attorney hasn't discussed, financial obligation of this organization in case of the reverter. And that's what we would discuss in that joint agreement, we presume.
What are our current obligations? I mean, if we've got this lease in place now, and if PCPA left today, I mean, they went out of business, what are our obligations currently?
If the PCPA went out of business today, we would essentially be there as the leaseholder. The lease provides that if it's no longer used for a theater, it reverts back to the county as well. So right now our obligation is as the lessee, and under that lease, the lease is about 1 page long because it was done back in 1964. So there's not a lot of direction under the lease. What I reiterated to the county was the RSCVA didn't want to just cancel the lease unilaterally and leave them holding the.
So could this agreement be as simple as in the event the reverter clause comes into place, then the lease comes back into place?
That's certainly.
I mean, so we're back basically in the same position we're in today.
Sounds like what you're talking about anyway. I mean, it sounds like what you're talking about.
I think that's a possibility, and again, as leaseholder, then would we want to renegotiate that lease? I think they'd want to renegotiate the terms of that lease to put more teeth into it on the RCVA. I don't know. I don't know where they're going to.
I understand that. But I mean, I think from our standpoint, in the event that something goes south in this deal, why don't we just make sure we get right back to the position we're in today? That's fair to everybody, in my opinion.
Mr. Hall has a very valid point. Somebody who just did take back a property with serious deferred maintenance, what's the cost going to be to take it back? I mean, should somebody build in a clause to maintain the property to a certain level, the level that it's being maintained at now? I mean, instead of making this decision by the deadline, which is what, the 28th? Maybe more things need to be considered, or maybe you guys can work it out by then. But Mr. Hall's point is very valid about that deferred maintenance.
Yeah, and I completely understand the point, and that's the point I made at the county, that by doing this transfer to the PCPA puts the county in the exact same position that they're in today. It doesn't change their position at all because of the way the lease is drafted. If we walked away today, it would revert to the county anyway. Or if the PCPA today decided not to run that as a theater anymore, to revert to the county today. So that was the point I was trying to make.
That's my point in trying to revert back. That's my point in trying to just revert back to the same position we're in today. We're still in a position where we could walk away from it in the event there's, and to be honest, I mean, I don't see anything happening for many, many, many years. I mean, these guys are operating it very well. I mean, they're doing a good job. I think they've done all the right things. They've made all the right moves. So I don't think you're looking at anything in the next 10 to 20 years, in my opinion, that are going to see drastic changes. But for the future, you never know. And if it comes back to us because at some point in time, 30 years down the road, PCPA goes away, well, I want to be in the same position where we can just turn it back over to the county. It's their property.
If that's the pleasure of the board and the direction, that's the position we can take back to the county attorney. Absolutely.
Anybody else?
I think that the discussion that we just had is absolutely accurate. I mean, you look, they're in the best, the capital improvements on that facility are better now than they ever were.
Yeah, they're doing a fabulous job.
And they've been able to maintain through the worst economic times. They've even improved. I forget the number, I once knew it, the number of days out of the year that the facility is utilized is extremely high. So I don't think that there's as much of a concern on that part, but I totally accept it, and that would be the motion, that if there were a failure here, that we would just revert to the current condition, period.
Failure of what? The failure of what?
If, in the event that it reverts back to the county, then the lease would kick back into place under the same terms. Puts us back in the same position we're in today.
That motion, the issue of not exceeding the lease term and to review the agreement every 3 years?
Well, it would be on that same lease. The lease would be, I mean, you could put that in there, but, I mean, basically, we're saying, if it reverts back, then we assume the lease as it is today, right?
That's satisfies direction for me. I can take that back to the county attorney. I think that's pretty simple direction, what we're looking for today.
Any other comments? So that was a motion, Sharon? Got a second? Any other discussion, Glenn?
Right now, we maintain the building, or we at least observing the maintenance of the building?
Currently, per the operating agreement, we pay them $60,000 a year for the next 4 years, and there's requirements in there that they have to report on their financial standing and keep the building up. And just to note, in the current proposal for the Washoe County Commission, Section 3 does have, Section 3B says that improvements to the property will be well and properly maintained. So I think the county has tried to capture, to Jerry and Jerry's point, that building stay in good shape.
So that's the first time I heard anybody say that the RSCV is going to continue to pay $60,000 for the next 4 years.
No, we would not.
Under the current agreement.
Under the current agreement.
I think was Glenn's question.
The current agreement would go away.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I was just kind of curious to see, is anybody here walking the premise? Or maybe walk the premise 3 times, 4 times a year or so?
I don't believe anybody from the facility side, engineering side,
not
has
on the
recently.
schedule.
Not to buy a ticket.
But they do come in and give us, when they give us their report, they give us how much money they put into in capital improvements into the building.
Correct.
So.
Could we, Mr. Chairman, as part of this, have RSCVA go and walk the facility? I mean, would that be with Washoe County, or do whatever? I mean, I think it would be a good idea if no one from RSCVA has really walked the area. Wouldn't it be a good idea to at least know what we have today?
I don't have any issues with that if someone wants to go see it. I mean, they're taking over total control of
They are.
the property as soon as this agreement takes place. So I don't know what that does for us. I mean, we're not responsible for it anymore.
Right, but there is the possibility that it could revert back. I mean, everybody says, it's highly unlikely. Well, sure, it's highly unlikely, but we also know that there is a possibility of something going wrong.
Well, I guess
keeps on going.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I don't think anyone would have a problem. If you want to send your public works department over there to take a look at it and just, I don't know, to assess the condition of it. I don't know what that does for you. I mean, what if you find something that I mean, you go in there and say, well, this needs to be improved. I don't know what you get out of that. Yeah. So.
Maybe it is to the point, but it seems to me that we're saving $60,000 a year.
Under the current agreement, if we go back, it had been up to $220,000.
And that's money that could have gone into maintenance. And if you look at someone else's budget, that money is coming in as revenue, and they're supposed to use it for maintenance to do whatever. And so that's not going to be there. So their budget's going to be a little bit off kilter. And I tend to think, if we want to get rid of the property so that it's not our burden, it's not part of our core work business effort, let's just go ahead and do that. Council understands issues that we brought up. And if it comes back, it comes back. But what I wouldn't want to see is a situation where the PCA is not attending to the business of maintaining the facility. Because we've had our own discussions about the Livestock Events Center and how some of that maintenance has been deferred because there simply wasn't enough money to do it. And I don't want that to happen to a property that's going to come back to us and become our responsibility again.
And if I could add, Mr. Chair, one of the driving forces for Mr. Allen's group to want to do this is if they gain control of this property, it opens up a lot of doors for them to get more grant money, more avenues for them to fundraise, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, he is not worried at all about having the money there to maintain this operation at all.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously with one abstention. Okay. Next item, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have before you is the request from staff to approve the award of the construction of 67 RV spaces out at the Livestock Event Center. Just as a bit of history, currently we have 33 RV spaces which are located. This is the little exhibit hall for those of y'all that are familiar with the Livestock Event Center. That's our big main arena, rodeo arena. The 33 spaces that we currently have are all located in and around this exhibit hall. You can actually see 2 or 3 or 4 RVs actually in those locations right now. The location of these RV spaces we're prohibited from using them in 3 of our largest shows that we currently host. The Region 3 Arabian Show, the ACTRA Team Roping, as well as the Snafflebit Futurity. In addition to that, we've recently been successful in attracting for the first time a National Cutting Horse Association event that was moving here out of Salt Lake City, Utah. An 11-day event expected to generate in excess of 4,000 room nights. One of their biggest concerns about the Livestock Event Center was the lack of RV spaces that we have available on site. In today's fairgrounds, equine, livestock event center type operations, on-site RV spaces are critical for the operation. The horse people travel with these big, beautiful $1 million motorhomes, and the ability to accommodate those patrons. Not only is it critical for the success, but it can be quite lucrative, if you will, for the operator. What we have actually proposed here within this, what we've actually proposed is to relocate or construct 67 RV spaces, which would be all the way down all the way down what is currently the east side of the Livestock Event Center property, or I believe that's Sutro Street right here. The RV spaces would all be all the way right down this full east side. There would be full operational RV spaces with dump stations and electric and water hookups. Would accommodate a multitude of sizes, all sizes of, or at least current the RV spaces or the RVs that are on the road today. The cost associated with this, our original estimate was $350,000. The low bid that came in from SNC was $409,000. It actually, once after our original estimate in meeting with Nevada Energy, they required a second electric source that would accommodate the 30 spots located to the north of the barn area, out in this area, out in that parking lot, which is why the increase of the $59,000 was the addition of that second electric transformer unit that we could pull power from there. Even with the cost overruns, we do have funds available. It's estimated that in our estimations, that we currently, with our existing 33 spaces that we have here, we're currently doing around right at 800 spaces a year. With the addition of these, when we build, if we were to build the 67, we are now projecting that we would do closer to 2,800 to 3,000 RV spaces a year. cost of our RV spaces are $45 a night. So it's actually a pretty good revenue for us on these bigger events. I think it should be noted, because we have had some discussions with the local RV stakeholders, if you will, and proprietors in the marketplace. We'll only be open and operating during our big events. So it's an event-only operation. We won't be out advertising in Good Sam or at least in our opinion, directly competing with the Grand Sierra or Boomtown or any of the other operators. Just as a reminder, if you aren't familiar, the RV space operators in Washoe County do pay room tax, just no different than our hotel stakeholders. We pay room tax, or we'll be paying room tax on our own RV spaces. And so what we've come before you today is a request to approve the award of a contract to construct 67 RV spaces down the east wall of the Livestock Event Center at a cost of not to exceed $409,000. And we anticipate construction, and if we can keep at least a little decent weather, we'll be open with these RV spaces by April 15th, prior to the National Cutting Horse Association Western National Championships coming to Reno this next April. With that, actually, Brian and Laura handled the bidding and so forth for the Rscva, which is standard procedures, especially in any purchase of this size. And unless Brian, if you have anything else to add, I'm more than happy to answer any questions or concerns.
Is there any kind of drawing or layout of what they propose? Because I'm looking at, you said 67 spaces is going to take that entire, okay. And I'm looking at those two big rigs sitting there. It looks like you line up about 200 of those over there.
67.
Okay, so I'm looking, is that the spaces? Because those look like they're about 4 parking spaces wide.
Actually, what you have is you have a parking space, then you have a little island in between them, and another parking. And so you have an island for every 2 spaces that contain the electric, the dump station, the water. And yes, we've had Ray Pezzanella and his group has designed. Our original intent was to get closer to 80, but when you bring them out, you actually get 67.
And then that drawing there is the one end of the parking lot, but where's the other end where you were pointing with your pointer down on that end? Okay.
That's a simple drawing.
It's those slanted spaces, and then down at the end, further to Audi.
Yes, there's 37 spaces that you'll have right there.
Okay, and then there are different configuration down near the Audi and Sutro corner then.
Yes, it's 37 within that block, if you will, of the Livestock Center, another 30 down the other.
Okay.
The actual other 30, for those of you who are really interested, actually accommodate a larger RV than the ones on the slant. So they're actually, the RVs today are just phenomenal, what some of these people are driving, so.
Room nights, so to speak, or 800?
28. We did 8. We're currently doing right at 800.
Okay.
And we project that we'll go to 2,800 to 3,000, simply by adding National Cutting Horse, ACTRA, Region 3, and Snafflebit Futurity. Snafflebit Futurity and ACTRA, we're not able to rent a single space.
So based on $45 a night, that's about a 4-year time frame to make your money back?
We're thinking more like 3.
3 years. And then if all the things you have to do out there at the Livestock Event Center, how come you think this is the best thing to do?
Because of the return.
Okay.
I mean, if Beth Cooney Inc. could do this, she should do this tomorrow morning. The return on this is quick. We have the funds available to us now, and it's for one, and to get the National Cutting Horse Association event. This is something that they were very adamant about, our lack of RV spaces. So it'll, gives us the opportunity to increase the events, and then it'll be, make it financially much better for Snafflebit, ACTRA, and a number of our events.
Any other questions? Mike?
Yeah, just real quick for my edification. Did any of these companies get disqualified because they filled out the bid forms wrong? We've had a problem in Sparks with the new legislation, listing yourself as a subcontractor. Did anybody get disqualified?
No, sir. There was one question about SNC and a warranty issue, which wasn't provided, but we cleared that up. So no, none of the contractors, and most of y'all familiar with SNC, big company here locally, and no, actually I quite honestly, I was surprised to receive so many bids for this project.
Times are tough. Yeah, we got 10 bids on a $60,000 project.
I guess people are hungry, but no, we're very, very happy with the contractor local group and very confident that, God willing, with the weather, they'll turn it around and have it ready for the National Cutting Horse Group in April.
Well, I'll make a motion, we accept the bid from Sierra Nevada Construction.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Any items for future board meetings? Anybody have anything? Board member comments? You got something for future board meeting?
Well, you know, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have something on my mind, and I know Chris is developing a relationship with the airport authority. You know, there was a meeting, the airport authority had a meeting Friday at the El Dorado last Friday in regards to just update on air service. And going forward with next year, with all the bowlers coming to town, you know, 2013 is the first time ever we have the women and the men bowling congress all in one, and then all the Safari Club coming next year, and the convention success that looks like 2013 spring. It's important to convey that message to the airport and actually get in front of it out to the airlines so that they can have time to see this news and this information and schedule air service going forward. You know, is it the horse in front of the cart, or cart in front of the horse? But so I was in a meeting the other day with the airport, and the relationship there, continued development of that relationship there. And so I just throw it out, you know, for Chris. I know you're meeting with Chris Bart quite a bit now, and Jerry's our liaison there to the airport, but whatever you can do to continue to get information to the airport in regards to convention business and everything, so they can convey it to the airlines. All right.
Any other board member comments? Seeing none. Public comment. I have no public comment cards. Does anyone from the public wish to speak? Seeing none. One more motion. Got a motion. Motion is second. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.